Hello, Cardinals. We're going to talk about investigation 3.3 today, our investigation involving the temperature of air. Our focus question today is how does temperature change over different surfaces, which is why we're going to be using two different convection tubes, some ice and some water. And we have two vocab words today. Defend means to speak or write in favor of, so you might defend your stance on something. And limitation is the greatest amount of something that's possible. So you might have a limitation to the amount of, marbles that can fit into a jar or something like that. All right. So before we start on lesson 3.3, we want to review what happened 3.2. So we want to discuss how the model that you made was similar to the water cycle. You had, as you can see here, you had condensation on top of the jar. Chances are you had water droplets, and then you had water in the bottom of your container. So all these different things represented different items within the water cycle. And then you had a light, which I guess would represent the sun that heated up both of those little containers in water. And you might also discuss what would happen if we left this for 48 hours or 72 hours, or if we just kept this in there permanently. And then talking about 3.2, we're going to talk about what limitations existed within your model. So obviously we can't exactly replicate the water cycle, but how is this not like the water cycle? So even though we tried to model it the best we could, what are some ways that it was not like the water cycle? And then we have a little review of the water cycle. This is a very detailed image of the water cycle and all the different places that water can end up during that cycle. And we'll be discussing this in class. And at some point, you should either draw this into your notebook or maybe print off a picture and tape it in there too, so you have a picture of the water cycle. We're going to discuss a little bit how water moves through the water cycle, and then what conditions it helps the water move through. So you might discuss maybe how the heat maybe helped it up. And then you should answer number 2, discuss how water moves through the water cycle in your notebook under your objectives. Moving on to lesson 3 today, we're going to investigate the effects of surface temperature on the temperature of air above that surface. So we've talked a lot about surface temperature, we talked a lot about the water cycle, and now we're going to try to connect those two together. We're going to be looking over student sheet 3.3, and that will basically lead you through the investigation today. And then the teacher should help you through steps 5 through 12, so you know what you're doing. It's going to be a little bit of observing what's happening while you're taking times and temperatures. Here's the little setup we're going to have today. We're going to have a beaker of hot water and a beaker of crushed ice, and those will be in those convection tubes that have thermometers in them. And at some point, there'll probably be a little condensation building up in the tube, so you'll have to use a ruler with a little paper towel on it to remove that. So after we get the information, we're going to talk about how this can be a fair test to make sure that we're in getting all of our variables and things like that equally. We're going to be making some predictions, and you'll collect your materials. If it hasn't been done already for you, you're going to fill one plastic container with hot water and one with ice, and then you'll need to take the temperatures of them. And then make sure you record those temperatures on your sheet before you start. Your clock will be at 0, and then you're going to place the containers under the convection tubes, and you're going to observe the temperature changes of the thermometer tape within each convection tube. If it gets difficult to see, that's what you have the ruler with the paper towel on it for, to remove any condensation that would form. And then when you completed the investigation, you should clean up. So here's your to-do list for today. All right. When you get all done today, you're going to want to read investigation 3.4 on textbook pages 34, 35 for tomorrow. As always, if you have any questions, please let your teacher know, and have a great day, Cardinals.